Hi, we're going to have a little look at some butterflies for you now. I'm going to do one that's quite popular, British butterfly, based loosely on a peacock butterfly. So I tend to find that if you've got butterflies on any of your work, they're really, really popular, and particularly on social media, the pictures seem to travel further. They're just really popular symbols. So I'm going to start off mixing a base colour for my butterfly. It's going to be sort of a very pale yellowy orange. Not too much paint on the brush to start off with, and I'm going to build in the shape. Okay, we need the wing shapes to be roughly symmetrical. With this particular butterfly, the top wing goes up in a bit of a point and comes in a little bit towards the bottom. You might have to play around a little bit to get your shape. I sort of alter and tweak them quite a bit. Once you've got all the wings in, you'll be able to see whether it's the right size and shape. So I'll play around with that in a moment. I'll just get some base ones in too. My base ones come out just slightly further than that top one, down to a point and around. You'll notice I've left the body out at this stage. The reason I do that is I tend to find when people paint in a body first, they tend to get a bit carried away and it ends up like a big fat slug in the middle rather than a delicate little butterfly. They are quite big bodies on this butterfly, but we'll do that later on in scale with the wings. So I've got my basic shape in. I can see it's not symmetrical, so I'm going to play around a little bit until we get it somewhere near. With cocoa butter, it's not staining the icing, so we can cover up any original lines. If we make a mistake, that's all fine. Got lots of room for error. Okay, so we'll build that in. I'm going to build in a little body shape now. That'll probably change as we go on through the painting, but it'll just give me a base. So the head comes up just above the wings. It's quite a fattish head and shoulders, if a butterfly could have shoulders. And the body is coming down to the base point of the wings. That'll do for now on that. Now then, if I mix up a sort of coffee-ish mocha kind of a colour, a little bit of brown and white, but quite creamy coloured. On this particular butterfly, it runs along the top of the wings. Quite thick at the beginning, thinning out as it goes up. Turn your cake or your board to do the same on the other side. I'm going to let that dry out. I'm going to go over it again in a moment too, once that's dried a little. That same colour is going to run down the edge of my wings. And along this one. So it's just sort of a dotting motion that I'm putting this down so that it's not a solid stripe going around the edge. These wings have got a little bit of a wobbly edge to them, so we're going to keep picking that out with the paint as we go on. Now this wing, the top wing, crosses over the bottom ones. So just to remind me of that, I'm going to paint that line in a slightly darker colour. It's worth doing that straight away so you don't lose track of where you are. Have a look, check the wings are both the same size. One of the biggest mistakes I find with people when they're painting butterflies is, as they move the brush, as we do the top section of wings, we move out this way. That's great. But as you move down to the bottom ones, you need to start moving your brush in this direction, kind of coming out from the corner. Often people don't, and they keep the same sideways movement, and you just end up with a very square looking butterfly. It doesn't work. You need to come down as the wings would crease up in sort of a diagonal motion. But we'll do a bit more of that as we move on. So where that top beigey colour was, that should have dried out a little bit. I'm just going to go over it again, just to really pick it out. Okay, one of the main features of this butterfly are the big dots that look like eyes on the edge of their wings. So we're going to mark in where they go. And I'm just doing that in plain white to start off with. I'm going to have one up here. There's still a corner of the wing left. It's important that you leave that section there. Same over here. You want it in about the same place. Right, I'm just going to re-establish that baseline of that wing, because it's important on this section where we're trying to put our markings in. And then another one of these eye markings is here. It's coming out from under that top wing, so you're only seeing half of it really. And it's quite big. It's bigger than the top one. These are really bright markings, so we're going to go back over to the original ones, put some more white down, which is going to make a base for other paint later on. Okay, and we're going to work a little bit more on the main wing colour. So I can use lots of lovely oranges and reds, and I want all the lines that I'm doing to come out from the body out towards the edge of the wing. And then here, that sort of diagonal motion that we talked about. You want real punches of colour. Don't be scared to use really bright colours. Really bring it to life. What I'm thinking about when I'm putting colours down is that I want the wings to curve into the body. So shadow should be falling along that body line. That should be the deepest point of our shadow, along the body line. So by adding real shots of colour elsewhere, we're going to make out those sort of eye markings stand out even more. So lots of lovely bright colour. Just let that dry off a bit. And I'm going to move in with some of the black markings. Okay, so to put our black markings in, that sort of beige line that we put in before, I'm going to run along the edge of that with my pure black paint, with a very small brush, up to where the little eye mark is, past it and up to the corner of the wing. And I'm going to fill that corner in black. I'm going to do the same on this side. Okay, now some of the black sweeps around the other side of the eye as well. There's sort of a little triangle of black up there. And it comes around that eye shape. Stand back, have a look. Do they look very similar? That's what we're hoping for. that you've used similar amounts of black for the markings on both wings. Okay. And then, about a third of the way up the wing, there's a little black kind of curl that comes back towards the body. Try and make them pretty much equal. We'll move down onto the base wing. We've got a similar sort of thing going on down here. There's some black that sweeps round the right hand side of the eye. Right. Now the beigey brown that we made up before, I'm going to make a deeper colour based on that. So it's still got white in the base. And this little beige section above the main wing has a little bit of the deeper brown running across the top of it. Then we'll deepen it a little bit more. It has some very fine lines running down towards the wing. Same on this side. Just get it any way you have to turn it, but just get it so your hand is moving easily and comfortably. And there's a similar thing going on the sides of the wing. So I'm doing sort of a wobbly edge to it. And a similar sort of thing that we're just running colour back a bit. It's not set lines, it's actually sort of stripes on the top of the wing, but by the time we get to here, we're just dragging colour back into the wing. We're looking to do the same sort of thing on here. Nice wobbly edge. Check your wing shapes are still pretty much the same. Drag some colour back into the wing. Same on the base, all the way around. Wobbly line, barely touching the icing. Drag the colour back. So I'm going back into that again, those sections, with a little bit of grey mixed in it too. Only the tiniest bit, but just to give us a bit more definition. You don't want it to be a black line around anything. I tend to find that with people who make lots and lots of cakes, that they're so used to very fine detail, trying to make sure their work is absolutely perfect, that quite detailed painting transfers very easily, even to people who've never painted before and think that they can't paint. Generally, if they're cake makers who are making quite a few cakes a year and always working towards a neat finish, they find fine painting quite simple actually. It's just breaking it down into separate bits. So I'm using the same sorts of colours down the body, just to keep it going at the same sort of level as the rest of it. Just want everything to be working the same tone. So it's just a dotting motion that I'm putting in, not too much detail. I'm going to work on some of those wing markings a little bit now. So we have inside the eye section. Okay, so I'm using an ice blue now, petal blue in fact, with some white in there to make it really stand out. And I'm putting a real blob of that into these eye shapes and lots of it into the base one. Now the base sort of eye marking has lots of little dots of black through it. So especially if you've got lots of oil in your paint, that will all sit in there nicely, mix in with the blue nicely too. And that's as it is on the butterfly. So it doesn't matter if they start to merge in some places. It does that anyway. Okay. And then up at the top, in the centre of the eye thing, we have some bright yellow. Again, we need a little bit of white in there for that yellow to sit. It's too opaque on its own. And in amongst that, a real shot of orange. I've got some white in this section here. So I'm going to mark that in. And I'll need to go back to that to brighten that up. Do a little bit more under our eyes, around the black. Okay, while the white's drying out, I've just mixed a little bit of brown into the orange we already have. I'm using that to establish the bottom of that wing. And here, where it's meeting the body. So we've got real depth of colour now. It starts to come to life a little bit. I'm going to drag some of that deep colour back from the edge. So I'm just going to put a little bit more detail into the body. I'm doing that with brown, a little bit of black in it. It's a bit too strong, so I'm just going to lift some of that out again. The dry brush, that's better. And then with a bit of deep brown, just going to go and make some deeper marks around the edge of the wing. The reason I'm doing that is because we've got such strong markings in the centre and then it fades out and it's just a bit too wishy-washy. So sometimes you just have to play for a few minutes just to bring it back together. It's nice to have delicate painting, but you don't want it so wishy-washy that it may as well not be there. Same kind of wobbly motion with your hand. Just bring it gently back together. Okay, we've got the body there, and then I'm just going to put in some antennae. Just a really fine motion with a fine brush, very light. Okay, and there we go.